Alright, welcome. In this video for Celestial University, we're going to continue going over a few different advanced astrology essays. So first we're going to go over the astrologer's gaze, which is a phenomenological historiography of celestial council from Tiberius to Tarnus. Now, in my other videos I have talked about the history of astrology within itself. But what I'm going to do is go over just the Celestial Council history, and as well we're going to go over the information cosmos, astrology as quantum archaeological retrieval of cosmic memory. So what this essay is about, from Tiberius to Tarnus in the Celestial Councils. Well, this essay approaches astrological historiography through the lens of phenomenology, the philosophical study of conscious experience. Rather than asking what astrologers believed or what techniques they employed, I asked what was it like to be an astrologer at the moment of council? What was the structure of the astrological gaze as it moved between chart and client, between celestial symbol and earthly decision? Drawing on the phenomenological traditions of Husserl, Heidegger, and Merleau-Ponty, I examined the lived experience of astrological practice across history, revealing a consistent structure beneath surface variations. The astrologer's gaze, I argue, is a unique form of consciousness. Okay, so I'm arguing that this is a unique form of consciousness, simultaneously mathematical. Simultaneously mathematical and intuitive, detached and engaged, temporal and eternal. Quantum phenomenology, incorporating the observer effect and non-local awareness, provides the framework for understanding how astrologers across millennia have accessed information seemingly beyond normal perceptual channels. Okay? So here is our main introduction, which is the phenomenological turn in historiography. Well, traditional historiography asks what happened and why did it happen? Well, phenomenological historiography asks what was it like? The texture of the experience, the structure of consciousness, the lived reality of historical actors. For astrological historiography, this turn is particularly fruitful. Astrology is, at its core, a mode of perception, a way of seeing the world that reveals meaning invisible to ordinary vision. The astrologer's gaze moves between heaven and earth, between abstract calculation and concrete intuition, between universal pattern and particular instance. Understanding this gaze across history requires phenomenological methods. Let's observe our framework. And we start with Husserl, intentionality in the life world. So Edmund Husserl, phenomenology's founder, emphasized intentionality, the principle that consciousness is always consciousness of something. Every act of perception intends an object. You create your own what? Reality. Whether it's in your subconscious mind or your conscious mind, we reiterate our beliefs. So, the astrologer's intentionality is complex. It intends simultaneously the chart as mathematical object, the planets as celestial bodies, the archetypes as symbolic meanings, and the client as living reality. These multiple intentions cohere in the act of interpretation. Husserl's concept of the life world, the pre-theoretical world of everyday experience, illuminates how astrologers across history have inhabited different life worlds while sharing common structures of astrological perception. Let's observe Heidegger. Being in the world and temporality. Well, Martin Heidegger emphasized being in the world. the embeddedness of consciousness in practical contexts. Astrologers are not detached observers, but engaged participants in their historical worlds. Heidegger's analysis of temporality is particularly relevant. Astrological consciousness experiences time as simultaneously linear, the progression of transits and cyclic, the return of planets, finite, the individual lifespan, and infinite, the cosmic cycles. This multi-layered temporality distinguishes astrological from ordinary historical consciousness. So we as astrologers observe this because time is simultaneously linear, a progression of transit cyclic. I was trying to change the colors, show you guys. There we go. The return of planets. Of course, we have finite, cosmos we live in, and then we have infinite, cosmic cycles. All right, it's a multi-layered temporality, and it distinguishes astrological from ordinary historical consciousness. All right, let's observe Merleau-Ponty, the embodied gaze. So Maurice Merleau-Ponty emphasized the embodied nature of perception. We see through bodies situated in space and time. The astrologer's gaze is embodied in specific practices. The calculation of charts, whether by hand, by Volvel, or by software. The visual scanning of symbolic patterns. The spoken interaction with clients. These bodily practices shape astrological perception across history. Quantum phenomenology, the observer as a participant. So quantum physics reveals that observation is participation, and the observer doesn't merely record reality, but helps constitute it. So quantum phenomenology extends this insight to all perception. The astrologer does not merely read meanings present in the chart, but co-creates those meanings through the act of interpretation. This is not subjectivism, but participatory realism. Meaning emerges from the encounter between the chart and consciousness. The structure of the astrological gaze. Across historical variations, the astrologer's gaze exhibits a consistent phenomenological structure. We have the double vision, being calculation and intuition. I'll erase that, try to get that a little bit cleaner. There we go. So the astrologer sees doubly. One eye tends to calculation, the precise positions of planets, the mathematical aspects, the technical rules of interpretation, and the other eye attends to intuition, the sudden gestalt, the symbolic resonance, the felt sense of meaning. This double vision is not a division, but a synthesis. Calculation provides the framework within which intuition operates. Intuition animates the dead numbers of calculation. Neither functions alone. And we look at our historical variations of this. We know Hellenistic astrologers emphasize calculation with philosophical frameworks. We know Renaissance astrologers balance calculation with Neoplatonic intuition. We know modern psychological astrologers privilege intuition while respecting calculation. And we know contemporary practitioners integrate both through computational tools. All right. Jumping to the temporal gaze, being the past, the present, and the future as one. Ordinary consciousness experiences time as linear, past, behind, present, now, future, ahead. The astrological gaze experiences time differently. In the moment of interpretation, past, present, and future coexist. The natal chart holds the past, the birth moment, as present reality. Transits connect past configurations to future potentials, and progressions reveal the unfolding of destiny through time. This temporal structure corresponds to what physicists call the block universe. The view of space-time as a single four-dimensional manifold in which past, present, and future are equally real. The astrologer's gaze intuits this block universe phenomenologically. The holographic gaze is the part contains the whole. So the astrological chart is a hologram. Each part contains the whole. The ascendant implies the descendant. The moon's position implies the sun's. Each planet's placement resonates with every other. The astrologer's gaze learns to see holographically, to perceive the whole in each part, to move between part and whole without losing coherence. This holographic perception mirrors the structure of quantum entanglement and non-local correlation. The empathetic gaze, meeting the client. All right, well, what does that look like? Well, astrology is relational. The astrologer meets the client in a moment of shared tension, and this meeting shapes the interpretation. The empathetic gaze moves between the chart and client, correlating symbolic patterns with lived experience. The client's responses, verbal and nonverbal, inform the astrologer's understanding. Interpretation emerges from this dialogue. Of course, we have our historical variations that reflect changing conceptions of the client. So ancient clients sought fate and fortune, Renaissance clients sought political advantage, Victorian clients sought character insight, contemporary clients seek meaning and direction. Yet the structure of empathetic attention remains constant. Let's go over a few case studies. First, we're going to observe Thrasyllus before Tiberius, circa 4 CE. And the scene is Rhodes. Tiberius, exiled and paranoid, tests the astrologer Thrasyllus by asking him to predict his own fate. And we have Thrasyllus' gaze. We observe the calculation, intuition, temporal synthesis, holographic perception, empathetic meeting, and the outcome. So, he casts the chart, noting the configuration of planets, the aspects, the critical points, and he feels the danger. Tiberius intends to throw him from the cliff if his prediction fails. He sees past, Tiberius' rise, present, the test, and future, his own survival, as a single configuration. The chart reveals not only Tiberius' fate, but his own. The two are entangled. He meets Tiberius' gaze, recognizing the emperor's fear beneath his power. Thrasyllus predicts his own survival, which depends on Tiberius' trust. His gaze reveals the truth. If Tiberius kills him, he loses his only honest counselor. Tiberius spares him, and Thrasyllus becomes the most influential astrologer in Roman history. We're going to observe William Lilly before Parliament. 1645. So we had a lot going on, right? One moment. Alright, I gotta check something out real quick. Alright, let's observe our second case study. And the scene for this, William Lilly before Parliament, 1645. So, our scene, London, during the Civil War. Parliamentary leaders seek Lilly's counsel before the Battle of Naseby. Then we have his gaze. We look at the calculation, intuition, temporal synthesis, holographic perception, empathetic meaning, outcome. So, he casts a horary chart for the question, will Parliament prevail? He feels the significance of the moment. The fate of England hangs in the balance. He sees past struggles, present crises, and future possibilities as a single configuration. The chart reveals not only the battle's outcome, but its meaning for English history. He meets the leader's anxiety with calm certainty, conveying confidence through his gaze. And vacuum, Lilly predicts victory. Parliament wins at Naseby. Lilly's gaze shaped not only his interpretation, but the confidence of those he counseled. Self-fulfilling prophecy grounded in astrological perception. Alright. Now we observe Dane Rudar before the client in the 1970s. The scene being a consulting room in California, a client seeks understanding, not prediction. He examines the chart's patterns, signs, houses, aspects, progressions. He feels the archetypal themes emerging in the client's life. He sees the chart not as fate, but as seed, potential waiting to actualize. Each chart factor reveals the whole person. The whole person illuminates each factor. He meets the client not as prognosticator, but as counselor, co-creating meaning through dialogue. And finally, the client leaves with deeper self-understanding, not predictions of future events. Rudar's gaze transforms astrology from fate reading to meaning making. Richard Tarnas, Before History, 2006. The scene is the writing of Cosmos and Psyche. Tarnas examines planetary alignments across Western history. He correlates outer planetary alignments with historical periods. Uranus-Pluto with revolution, Saturn-Pluto with crises. He feels the archetypal patterns emerging across centuries. He sees history not as random events, but as archetypal unfolding. Each historical moment contains the whole of human development. He meets history as a living presence, not dead data. A magisterial work demonstrating astrology's power to illuminate collective as well as individual experience, Tarnas's gaze reveals the archetypal structure of history itself. Let's go over the quantum phenomenology of astrological perception. Contemporary physics challenges the classical assumption of separate observer and observed. Quantum phenomenology extends this insight to all perception. Let's talk about the observer effect in astrology. Well, the astrologer's gaze does not merely register pre-existing meanings, but participates in their creation. The chart is a probability field collapsed into specific meanings through the act of interpretation. This is not subjectivism, anything goes, but participatory realism. The chart constrains interpretation while the interpreter completes it. Meaning emerges from their interaction. Non-local awareness. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that connection persists across distance. Astrological perception may involve non-local awareness, access to information beyond normal sensory channels. Many astrologers report experiences of knowing client details not present in the chart, details later confirmed. These experiences suggest that the astrological gaze opens channels of non-local intuition. The quantum vacuum and archetypal potential. Quantum field theory posits a vacuum, a sea of potential particles popping in and out of existence. This vacuum is not empty, but infinitely full of unrealized possibility. The archetypal realm may correspond to this quantum vacuum, a field of infinite potential from which specific meanings emerge through the act of interpretation. The astrologer's gaze taps this vacuum, drawing archetypal patterns into manifest awareness. Let's observe the phenomenological reduction, bracketing the astrological attitude. Phenomenology employs the epoch or reduction, bracketing assumptions to examine pure experience. What remains when we bracket astrological beliefs? The experience of meaningful correlation between celestial patterns and human events. the sense of participation in a larger order, the feeling of connection across time and space, and the intuition of archetypal presence in symbolic forms. These experiences are phenomenologically real, regardless of their ontological status. They constitute the astrological attitude, a distinctive mode of consciousness that has persisted across millennia. And we conclude with the eternal return of the astrological gaze. This phenomenological historiography reveals that beneath the vast historical variations in astrological technique and theory lies a consistent structure of consciousness, the astrologer's gaze, simultaneously calculating and intuitive, temporal and eternal, detached and empathetic, has remained remarkably stable across 3 millennia. The stability suggests that astrology corresponds to something fundamental in human consciousness, a mode of perception that naturally emerges when humans contemplate the heavens and seek meaning in their order. The astrological gaze is not a cultural artifact, but a permanent possibility of human experience, awaiting activation in each generation. Quantum phenomenology provides the framework for understanding this permanence. The astrologer's gaze participates in the non-local, holographic, participatory structure of reality itself.